crisis unfolds, Doug Ford urges self-defense as Carney delivers another crushing blow to Canadians. Across Canada, a new wave of unease is spreading. Citizens are grappling with a surge in violent crime, political instability, and a growing feeling that their government is disconnected from their everyday struggles. In major urban centers like Toronto and Brampton, crimes that once felt distant, carjackings, home invasions, and daylight assaults, have become frighteningly frequent. A shocking case in Vaughan, where a homeowner was charged for firing a warning shot to deter car thieves, has symbolized the broader crisis in Canada's justice system. What once might have been seen as a rare anomaly is now triggering a national reckoning. Premier Doug Ford, a politician known more for economic pragmatism than populist rhetoric, took a bold and unexpected turn. After masked intruders tried to steal his own vehicle at his private residence, an attempt stopped only by his OPP security detail, Ford's tone shifted. At a press conference, he did not hold back. Outraged at the idea that a citizen could be treated as a criminal for defending property, he pledged support for the Vaughan man's legal fees and floated a seismic policy shift. Canada should consider adopting Castle Doctrine laws, where homeowners are empowered to use force to protect their homes without legal jeopardy. This suggestion stunned the political class. The Castle Doctrine is not standard Canadian legal thinking. It's a distinctly American concept that prioritizes absolute property rights and self-defense over proportionality. In Canada, the law insists that force must be reasonable and necessary, with courts often scrutinizing whether retreat was possible. By suggesting this shift, Ford is challenging decades of criminal law precedent and putting public safety ahead of traditional political caution. Whether one agrees with him or not, it's undeniable that he's tapped into a deep, nationwide frustration with the status quo. That frustration isn't just theoretical, it's backed by real examples. Peel Regional Police recently arrested nearly 100 people in an organized crime crackdown tied to tow truck extortion, fraud, and firearms. But despite the scale and seriousness of the charges, about half of the accused were released on bail shortly after. These rapid releases reinforce the perception that Canada's justice system is more protective of repeat offenders than of innocent citizens. People who follow the law are being left exposed, while criminals seem to cycle in and out of the system with ease. While crime stories dominate local news, Canadians are also watching billions of their tax dollars leave the country. Prime Minister Mark Carney, who replaced Justin Trudeau following his Liberal leadership win and subsequent federal election victory, pledged $4.3 billion in aid to Ukraine during the recent G7 summit. Of this, $2 billion is allocated to military assistance, while $2.3 billion is promised as long-term loans for reconstruction projects. Government officials insist that repayment will come from the interest generated by frozen Russian assets in Europe, but many Canadians are skeptical. In a time of domestic hardship, promises of repayment from uncertain sources feel like smoke and mirrors. Meanwhile, public service workers in Canada are being laid off in growing numbers. The Canada Revenue Agency has already dismissed over 1,000 employees. Federal passport offices are scaling back, causing longer wait times and frustrated travelers. The Department of Fisheries and Oceans is trimming its workforce as well. Across the board, departments are shrinking at a time when Canadians need them most. Healthcare systems remain overwhelmed, ER closures are reported in rural provinces, and core services are underfunded. These domestic cuts are especially galling for voters who believed they were electing a government that would protect, not gut, public programs. As economic uncertainty rises, so does an information vacuum. Since major social media platforms began blocking Canadian news content in response to new federal legislation, many citizens, especially older adults, have lost access to reliable news. Without Facebook updates or local headlines, entire segments of the population are relying on word of mouth or foreign VPNs just to stay informed. This blackout has created a dangerous dynamic, a public facing real crises, with limited tools to understand or respond to them. A democracy cannot function if its citizens are kept in the dark about key developments. Disillusionment is setting in. Voters who trusted Liberal promises of stability are now questioning what went wrong. Many were told that Pierre Poilievre would be the one slashing budgets and gutting public services, yet under Carney, it's happening anyway and more quietly. It feels like a bait-and-switch. Not only are core services being reduced, but government attention appears focused abroad rather than on growing problems at home. The public sees their communities becoming less safe, their services less reliable, and their voices increasingly ignored. The political situation is becoming volatile. In just 6 weeks, Carney's government has already lost 2 major parliamentary motions, a signal of weakening control and mounting opposition pressure. The Conservatives are watching carefully, biding their time as public sentiment drifts further from the ruling Liberals. While a snap election isn't certain, political insiders agree. If trends continue, the next vote could come far sooner than expected. Carney's honeymoon may be over before it even begins. Public safety, once taken for granted in Canada, is now a daily concern. Stories of broad daylight assaults, random thefts, and brazen home invasions have become normalized. In many neighborhoods, people are locking doors earlier, installing extra security, and wondering how things deteriorated so quickly. Confidence in police response is down, and confidence in the courts is even lower. When criminals walk free and citizens face charges for fighting back, the very idea of justice feels upside down. Ford's comments struck a nerve because they gave voice to a rising collective emotion. Enough is enough. Whether one agrees with implementing Castle Doctrine or not, his willingness to say what many are thinking marked a cultural shift. He spoke not like a career politician, but like a neighbor who's also fed up. In doing so, he elevated the conversation from isolated incidents to systemic failure. And unlike federal leaders, he didn't ask for patience. He demanded action. In today's Canada, that distinction matters more than ever. The road ahead is uncertain, and the challenges are immense. Carney will need to regain public trust, show a willingness to refocus on domestic needs, and navigate a shaky parliamentary balance. Ford has set the stage for a new kind of political debate, one centered on the individual's right to safety and defense in an increasingly dangerous environment. For everyday Canadians, the question is no longer whether things are bad. It's how much longer they'll have to endure this storm before someone steps up and truly puts them first.